I asked.
Today is Friday.
Oh, thank you, Greta, reminding us today is Friday. I really appreciate. What a good girl. She pops in, lets us know what day it is, make sure we're doing the show on the right day. What a sweetheart. I asked before my theme played, can I make it inside my house from the middle of the valley to blow my nose and come out? The answer is yes. I did. I'm already back in the dark, possibly surrounded by a multitude of skinwalkers. I don't know. I keep seeing these figures at the tops of the mountains. Could be cows, could be skinwalkers. Beats me. Hopefully I will survive the night. Welcome everyone to this December 11th, I believe, episode of Thalmor Radio. I am your host, Thalmor. Got Adrienne as a guest coming on later. Yeah, so I want to discuss a couple things. Tell me what my first thing was. What was my first thing? Funky Fish Friday. Never heard of that before. Oh yeah, consumer outlook. So I've talked on this show during the internals what media I'm consuming, and it's been Yakuza, and it's still Yakuza. But I wanted to discuss real quick what I'm doing. So I spent 5 weeks watching The Sopranos, and it was really good. I really loved it. So I've returned to Yakuza. I'm on Judgment, which is a spin-off game, came out in 2018. Once I finish Judgment, I'm going to play Yakuza 7. Then I'll be done with the Yakuza franchise. Then I'm going to go back to like 2017 and finish the Higurashi visual novels, finish the 2020 Higurashi anime. Then I'll be done with Higurashi. Then it'll probably be December, and then I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to find something else to consume. But that's what I got planned so far. Mutiny. So this Discord was briefly taken over by a hostile third party in the middle of the week. And this guy named Krona, who I will ping, yes, okay, they're already in chat, was able to give themselves admin perms using the Thalmor role, also gave it to another guy named Hentai Overlord, and they were in full command of the ship. And I only found out about it because one of them contacted me right when they took over. And it was very problematic. And I was very confused about why they were given these permissions, because I went into the audit log and no one gave them the roles. So I was very confused. Well, I had them over to my house in real life. They're my real life friends a week ago, and that's when they gave themselves the perms using my account. I found out this issue and I corrected it before they could wreak havoc on the Thalmoria community. So crisis averted. So, now then, with that out of the way, I want to discuss, this is going to take me a little while to get through, but this is a special internal. It's called the Ballad of the Syndicate, and I will not be shitting on the Syndicate for 20 minutes. It's not the intended purpose of this. So last week's episode of Thalmor Radio was controversial, because I said two things. Number one was I floated the idea about how I would get Armory back after it had been deleted by Kigos on Theo's request. Number two, I said I thought Amy Yuri, who I believe is a TS member, although she's kind of inactive, I think, had leaked KG's Discord at one point or something. And these two statements, the Syndicate did not like. Theo himself actually came here and addressed things and then left. And then the Syndicate got really pissy with me. Many members of the Syndicate did. Leo, Adam, Partisan, Theo, they all got pissy with me, and I got banned from the Syndicate's Discord. I was kicked off the island. Back when alliances had the headquarters on the maps, I believe the Syndicate was on an island in the Caribbean. I've been kicked off the island. I've been executed. I've been banned from doing business. It's over. And so I got to thinking about this some. And I did go into Amy's DMs the Saturday after the show, and I did kind of apologize because I couldn't remember who told me that Amy leaked, and I couldn't figure out where that would be. And so maybe I shouldn't say things that I can't back up pretty well. So I told her I'm sorry, told her, hey, my show's not that serious. I say a lot of things for content. And I got to thinking, I've been doing this show for a year now, once a week plus like bonus episodes. There's probably like 60 total episodes of Thalmor Radio. And they range from being 30 minutes long to 3 hours long, usually an hour and a half. So assuming an average runtime of 90 minutes, that's like how much? That's like 90 hours. I think 90 hours of Thalmor Radio since early December of last year. So quite a lot. And so, if someone kidnapped you, hooked you up to an adrenaline pump, held you at gunpoint, and said talk for 90 minutes, like or 90 hours, for almost 4 days, you'd probably repeat yourself some too. And I say this because one of the criticisms was that like I keep bringing up how Theo told Kigos to delete the Discord, and I think I mentioned the Amy thing like twice. And so the me saying it repeatedly, they conceived as being like a narrative against them, which isn't really true. But I thought about it, and I really have attacked the Syndicate a lot on this show during the course of the span of the show. And I don't have it out for the Syndicate. I don't have Syndicate derangement syndrome. And I thought about like why do I keep like shitting on them? And I think it's just circumstantial. I think one thing is that they are a really good alliance. They're very competent. They're very large. They're very strong. So it's like it's punching up. It's easy to criticize something that's like kind of powerful. Whereas like if I spend a lot of time shitting on a micro, it's like, well, who cares? It's a micro. Uh, Another thing is that the war happened, and like I swung really hard at them at the outbreak of the war. Which as it was revealed more and more that like, okay, this is why the Syndicate decided to act, it made sense, and that's why I retracted what I said, and I retracted it both on the forums and on the show the following episode. um I don't have it out for the Syndicate. I really don't. uh I don't think they're like super innocent. I mean, Theo came here and basically said everything I said about the Armory channel getting deleted, which is that, hey, well, we did it because we were leaving. I didn't want the information to be out there. It's a liability. Kigos is also responsible, and these are all things that I basically said about it. And look, I like Theo. I was with him for 2 years. Okay, he was under me as a member of Gov when I was leader. He became leader after I resigned. I was perfectly fine with him being leader. He was very competent. He did a great job. He is one of 5 people, the others being Kigos, Horsecock, Vlad, and me, who really helped shape KT into what it would become. Theo's a great guy. I like him a lot, in character, out of character. He did help to delete that one Discord channel, Armory, which was KT's Upper Gov chat, and I didn't like that. I think if anyone deleted any Upper Gov chat on their way out, I don't think it'd be taken well by that community. If someone deleted TKR's Upper Gov Slack channels on their way out, that probably wouldn't be taken very well. If Falk deleted Rose's Upper Gov chats on his way out, I don't think that'd be taken well. So I think it's fine for me to not like that. I've never meant to insinuate that Theo is a bad person. If it's come across that way, that's not how it's supposed to be. And that's another thing, is that the people who were most angry about last week's episode weren't listeners. Leopold, Partisan, Theo, Adam, none of these people tune in. They only know what I said because it came from a third party. And of course, we've all played the telephone game when we were younger. When information gets passes from one person to another, things can get misinterpreted, repeated differently, and so forth. In fact, I actually created a very silly infograph to copy this. They all make it deleted, Cooper? Okay, well, I think the principle still exists.
Keep in
Now, let
mind
me
though.
upload this infographic.
Keep in mind though that this is recorded, so they definitely could have heard you.
It was one of them told me they didn't listen to recordings. I think someone did tell them. But I created this infographic called the Thalmor Radio telephone game problem, and I think it's a very useful infographic to show how when listeners go and tell people what I say, party A being me, party B being listeners, party C being third parties, how that can like cause issues. And this is not the first time this has happened. I credit it happening this time because I think members of the Syndicate kind of took what I said too harshly, but also that there was a show I did, gosh, I don't even know, 6 months ago, when I talked about Purple Moon, And I said a lot of things about Purple Moon. I said I thought she was very competent. I thought she was very nice. I thought she was a very capable leader. I said she was very good to us when painting unprotected KT. But it also said that I thought her nice persona, she plays up a little bit to her advantage. And after I said all this, well, guess which part of what I said got to Purple Moon? It wasn't any of the first stuff. It was me saying, Thalmor thinks your nice thing is fake. And I had her in my DMs apologizing to me. And I told her, like, what are you on about? No. And I had to, like, talk to her to kind of explain, like, this is what I actually said. Like, you're taking this too seriously. So this makes twice now that people who would listen would go off and tell people what I said, and then they would take it the wrong way, or the person explaining would do it the wrong way. And look, I do say a lot of things on this show, okay? I look at the ground that is dimly lit by my book lights, and I think to myself, and I talk. It's a talk show. I'm usually, I have guests on, I have Zig as a co-host, but I'm the main oar on the ship here, and I gotta keep my mouth running because dead air is not very fun. And sometimes I say stupid shit. I've been doing this show 90 hours. You talk 90 hours without saying something dumb. And I say things that aren't very serious. And, if I say something that bothers you, don't take it so seriously. DM me, we can talk about it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong a lot. I make fun of myself about how wrong I am on this show. But anyways, that's why I say I've probably went after the Syndicate too hard doing the show for over a year. I've probably been a bit unfair to them. I don't think they're helpless victims of any kind, but I've probably been unfair. I'm not saying all this to get unbanned from TS's Discord. That doesn't matter a whole lot to me. But, I want to go forward, and say, look, this is not what I intended. Let's be nice to each other. And that's all I want. That's the Ballad of the Syndicate. Don't take it so seriously. I probably was a bit of an asshole, though. And there we go. So, show stuff. Not show stuff, game stuff, game stuff. So, Arctic declared war on me last Friday, and I didn't talk about it because it wasn't significant. But now it is significant because this war has been boring. It's been very boring. And I don't log in every day. I log in about every other day. So sometimes there's a stretch of time during this war where I'd log in every day. But, I don't consistently. And Arctic, this enabled Arctic here to missile me. He missiled me. I have Iron Dome. It worked once, but he missiled me like 4 or 5 times. Destroyed lots of infra in 2,000 plus infra cities. Really hurt my bottom line here. So, and his nation is Arctic themed. So those were some cold missiles, and they hit me, and I'm very butthurt about it, but it's fine. We're at war anyways. I also bought like a fucked up... So, I thought maybe I was getting hit in like some kind of counterattack because I think it was Yang who told me Thalmor you've been hit. And so I rushed to like buy tanks because I didn't know what was hitting me. But it was just Arctic with missiles. And so I also wasted like 1,000 steel at least. So that sucked, but oh well.
It's a boring war when you are wasting steel by buying tanks.
Yeah, and like Arctic actually did have some military, but it was gone like the next day. It was just obliterated.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Because Arctic also hit me the same exact time. And I proceeded to buy infrastructure because I didn't care.
Whoa. Well,
That's
I got
just insulting.
a lot of my cities are like between 1,000 and 2,000 infra, but when I got city 29, I bought it up to 2,000 infra because like, well, I got like 150 million on me. It's just 13 million. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And it got bombed anyways, I think. So, what's my next topic? Cold missiles was the first one. Oh, I think it was about fist being a retard. So I've said this on my show probably twice before because I repeat myself a lot. Zig's a retard. Not Zig. No, not Zig. Fist. I meant Fist.
How dare you?
So there's a thread made by Phoenix about drama with TI in the Fighting Pacifists, and I will talk about that more in depth. But I just want to mention this was the thread it was in. I have to go back inside. My nose is running again. I don't know. Cold weather makes my nose run. But Phoenix made this thread. And first off, Phoenix, like, okay, we all know what double posting is when you make two posts instead of having one post. Well, forget about double posting, forget about triple posting, forget about quadruple posting. Later in that thread, Phoenix septuple posted. He made 7 back-to-back posts responding to different things. Like, that's a whole, how many posts is it on one page? 20, 25? A whole third of the page is just Phoenix.
Double post, triple post, over post.
You got a warning point? I got you, Phoenix. And you were trying to respond a lot. Like, it would be hard to format all of that into one big post. I think I get it, but still, it's like, wow, 7 posts. And all 2 people read them all? Yeah. It was a lot. Phoenix, do you have any idea how many words or how, like, you've made over your forum posting career? You've only been around for a couple of months, I think. But you've posted quite a bit. No clue? Gotcha. Zig, can you entertain people as I blow my nose again?
Entertain them. Why don't you ask Shifty? Shifty's actually here, and he's way more entertaining than me.
All right, Shifty, share a story.
I'm not gonna leave you. The only thing I wanted to say is, so Phoenix, you told us when Phoenix earlier we were voice chatting before in the pre-show, and he said, you know, maybe they've overacted a little bit because it was a double post. I didn't realize it was 7. That's just not there's no reason to have that many. Double post, I understand, but holy cow. Delayed reaction. I'm sorry. Talk about chem stuff? No, nobody wants to hear about chem stuff. I know from experience.
All right, I'm back outside. I can pick up the reins again.
I will be interested in talking about the swamp being drained, but I'll wait for you.
All right, so Fist appeared in this thread about TI and the Fighting Pacifists, and he's just, okay, what did the Syndicate or the TKR, what did they do to make Fist, I cannot talk, Fist so irate at them? Because Fist, his incoherent rambles are so ridiculous that, like, he cannot be arguing in good faith. He has to just be making arguments against them because they have personally slighted him in some way. I do not believe anyone can take up this arrogant position Fist has and actually mean it. Like, he just has to be so against them for whatever reason. He's resorting to these madman rambles. I can't even describe them in any other way except rambles. They're just, I don't know. If you got nothing to say, just don't say it. That's why most of my posts on the forums are just shit posts, because I don't know anything. But Fist, he just keeps going. I agree, Julian. Y'all just need to read and not respond. I agree. I ignore. Phoenix gets a pass because I think he tries and just has problems trying to, like, he just has difficulty with, like, taking in new information or something. But I think Fist is just a bad faith actor. He should be ignored. No pass? Okay. I'm a nice guy. That's my thing. I'm too merciful. But Phoenix is a pass. Fist is a retard. Ignore him. I don't read forums as I want to torture myself. I don't know. Forums are okay. That can be interesting discussions. I know the thread Alex made when he banned NPO was great. Especially those first couple pages, man. The seeth was real. Oh, those were fantastic.
All right, someone said my name, and are we in a segment while we wait for Adrienne?
No, I wanted someone to take over as I blew my nose, but I'm already back, Shifty.
Ah, okay.
So,
I'll say for nose. Let's say
Shifty,
for nose.
why does Fist hate the Syndicate and TKR?
Wait, like Fist, the guy from Pantheon?
Yeah, God Emperor of Mankind guy.
Yeah, the Pantheon guy. Yeah.
Why does he hate TS and TKR so much? Because his forum posts are just insane.
Oh, basically, it just comes from basically being TKR and the Syndicate's bottom bitch, and he's basically got this whole thing where he was leading it. It seemed fine. Then obviously you remember he deleted or he disappeared. I forgot what he did exactly since it was so long ago. But basically, he's accused of cowardice, disappeared. He kind of dropped everything on Purple Moon. And he kind of just he's one of those guys that just blames the whole thing on Pantheon, not on himself. But Pantheon's always been pretty awful. Um, oh, we're talking about Fist. The guy who's got Emperor of Mankind. He deleted, disappeared, and then let Purple Moon take care of the whole war. And he claimed, "Oh, it's because I didn't have any support and everything was collapsing. And what was I going to do anyway? And it was a bad time for me in real life, like most of Pantheon always does. Like Felky, I think Yui's never actually done that. Surprisingly, Sphinx, all that stuff. Sphinx, obviously had his. He actually did have something going on, but like he always gets leaked on. Everything collapses. So basically, like I was basically shitting on that whole group in the PW general. If you see that graduating class of Pantheon weeboos join in mass in your alliance, you should basically just yeet them the hell out of there and never let them at the gov, because they're basically they're like termites. They're gonna kill your foundation and just basically turn it into Pantheon 2. So that's kind of how we have TCW now. But absolutely, just no. Yeah, you can do a wooden foundation. What if you live like on a boathouse? Got him. But yeah, he doesn't like the Syndicate or TKR. He felt like his alliance was worth more back then. If everybody remembers, Pantheon at some point was super upper tier. Like, holy shit, they're like TCW, but with even more people. Like, imagine if you fused together current TCW with TFP. That was old Pantheon. And then when they went to war, they basically shrunk to like 30% of their size. And yeah, and the people that remained were basically pixel huggers that were just trying to rebuild or going into vacate and coming out to be like, oh, we were just too busy for war. Well, you're too busy to even play, unless it's like, hey, city grants. Oh shit, I'm awake, real shit. So yeah, he's just one of those alliance leaders that thought his alliance was worth way more than it really was. But yeah, that's kind of the whole thing there.
All right, so now I want to talk about Swamp. So Swamp has came together, and they I've been saying for a while, and others have too, Swamp needs to cut their dead weight. And Swamp finally did this. The members of Swamp all came together. The Lost Empire, FARC, Ampersand, the United Socialist Nations, La Cosa Nostra, the Freemasons. They've all came together, and they have finally decided to cast out the weakest links, the Immortals and the Fighting Pacifists. Finally, they are gone. It is now time for a new prosperous era in the Swamp. The Swamp has been drained, ladies and gentlemen. It's over for the weakest micros. So, um, there was an announcement made. I don't remember who announced it. Was it Costa? Costa? I don't care. All the people in Swamp I care about are gone. Um, they made an announcement saying we voted them out. We kicked them to the curb. We evicted them. And that's that. The Immortals and the Fighting Pacifists, I guess, now are deciding what they're going to do. I personally am open to the Immortals joining Hedge should they figure out what to do with their protectorates, but they're probably going to go elsewhere, and that's fine. And that's fine.
You didn't read that thread very closely, did you, Thalmor?
I probably didn't, but expecting anything more than a fourth grade analysis from me is a mistake.
It's weird when I read closer than you, although I had some prior knowledge. But
Well, what's your interpretation, Zig?
well, okay. So first of all, I've been given clearance to know that TFP and TI are currently still allied. I was given clearance, and then Tyrion, in his interview on Ron, fully admitted that they're going to be pursuing a block. I think I'm not entirely sure. I mean, obviously the details were not there, but uh, yes, there's a block that's happening, and people are probably already involved and contacted, although we don't know who it is. It's anybody's guess.
All right, gotcha.
We do know. Somebody does know. Who's gonna tell? Arctic. Who is it?
Not saying, oh, come on, Arctic. Share it. Give the people what they want. They want the information. But anyways, I thought, yeah, the interview with Tyrion was enlightening. My interpretation was that, okay, so Tyrion said on my show that we're doing downscaling, and there had been talks of this happening in Swamp before. Swamp got mad that Tyrion mentioned that downscaling was happened, and they went ahead and kicked Ti and the Fighting Pacifists. Am I right on this? Is this the correct chain of events? Tyrion says yes, so I'm taking it. So I think that's ridiculous. I guess I shouldn't expect much more because Swamp is fucking useless without Ti and the Fighting Pacifists. Um, makes me. I almost wonder if the rest of Swamp didn't go ahead and kick them because they're just jealous that everyone thinks that Ti and the Fighting Pacifists are decent, and they think that everyone else in Swamp is bullshit. So they were like, well, we're just angry and jealous. We're gonna kick you out because rah 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 rah. Uh, so they got pissed that it proved them right. Yeah, basically.
See, I heard that apparently it was more so, um, Ti's always been kind of like a leader there, and Ti's always been obviously, the desirable one out of that group. Essentially, once that was the whole thing, like, hey man, the Immortals is kind of doing their own thing. It was fine, but it to me, what I've heard is the other ones got a little bit upset that Ti was too autonomous and too much the leader, and then they were kind of like associates, but they still love the Immortals. TFP was kind of like, hey, you know what? We're the best friend to Ti, so you know we obviously don't have to listen to the rest of you. And I've heard it's more so TFP's an angry feeling towards TFP from the others for TFP being chosen as Ti's best friend is kind of what got this going. But I've heard that as far as all of the alliances getting along, not all of them got along. Like, like in any block, there's always the best friends, and then there's the ones who don't really get along, and then there's a best friend who's carried along because they're friends, but they're also kind of useless and they're just meat shields. So that's what I've heard. That being said, I honestly think, well, no, because look at this with blocks. You have the Syndicate and TKR. Syndicate and I said Syndicate. Lol. Now I sound like like I'm Southern, like Seeker. Bless his heart, he's gone. But yeah, the Syndicate and TKR, for instance, they're powerhouse together, but are they best friends? I could say, yeah, they probably have pretty good relations. When you throw in some certain alliances that are in that block, some of them may not be so well received, and some of them may just be there because they're friendly. Like OWR may be really friendly to the Syndicate, but they know that they're not very useful, like TKR. Um, when you start putting alliances like that, that's how you kind of have something where you're like, all right, this alliance is probably gonna like. Okay, here's another one. Back with Surf Sub, everybody knew Imperia was there because people were like, oh, it's Rosway. Oh, it's kind of like, but not really Rosway. But hey, we needed somebody else to fill in the meat shield role. But when it came time to chop someone out, hedge money is basically Imperia removed. So, that's kind of one of those things. So that's where I'm going with the Swamp thing, is that from what I've heard, Swamp was friends and not friends and just mutual sort of things. Once you start getting a sort of rivalry or tension, they're not skilled enough, or some of the alliances weren't skilled enough to hold back, and they're kind of just like, you know what, fuck it, fuck you then, TFP. And Ti was like, well, we're gonna leave anyway, and these guys are chill. They're probably our best friend. If you guys have remembered some of the radio shows from the past, Tyrion even said TFP, he really loved working with Harry Flashman. They were probably the best out of the two for most people, objectively. And their relation was, yeah, we really get along. We really like working together. So once you want to kick out TFP, you're kind of like, hey, you kind of don't really want the rest of the group. Also, I don't get that reference. I don't get a lot of references. What is this? You're my boy blue. Oh yeah, I get it. Okay, now I get it. I think. I don't know. I don't think I do. But yeah, that's what at least what I've heard is that it was tension and bad FA. But that being said, the Immortals is pretty much spot on. What would be the most dynamic thing for using that old keyword dynamic for Immortals to do? To join Rose. I honestly think that would be the most exciting thing for them to do is to join Rose, make Rose a little bigger. Joining Quack, that's kind of boring and kind of lame. Oh, we fought someone and we became friends. Okay, well, that always happens. Joining Hedge Money, that kind of makes sense because you have that Children of the Light tie. That's fine. But definitely, I think Rose would be more exciting. Hedge Money would be cool. Quack would be kind of just like, wow, another alliance joins the set. But yeah, it's going to be one of those teams that are being rebalanced after this. They could also try to make their own block. That I don't know how many people would really sign on, but I'd probably bet after this war there's going to be a few alliances that are going to crumble because they haven't been doing too well. Some alliances are going to say we're not in this anymore, and others are just going to have tension like this, where it's just going to split up after. Oh, we don't really like the direction. We didn't like how you handled the war. You kind of got us killed. Yeah, TFP's always been historically friends with them, so I really think that them going directly just to Rose would be the most exciting thing. So then you have the 4 blocks, and then that would be kind of cool. Yeah, the shoot farms thing. I don't know if that's I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I would say that definitely would be more interesting if they just go all on there, but yeah.
That was a good analysis, Shifty. Thank you. All right, so that's about it for politics and war news. The war is still ongoing. No real changes there. Final call for politics and war. Is there anything else that happened in the game that I need to talk about? Did I miss anything? There's been no bank stolen this war. I don't know if like people have been going after banks or if banks have just been better about security. Got to clear on one now. Build tanks. I don't know, Haidu. That sounds I think it's fake news. Oh yeah, there is. I talked about it last week. I'll mention again though. Yearly like rewards, like the early processes have been going on. So go check that out. All right, so I'll talk real life news just for a second. Coronavirus. Coof coof. Still going on. We're in day I don't know 270 day 270 of 14 of stop the spread. Lockdowns have started again. I think New York banned indoor dining today indefinitely. No plans to reopen. I know locally here in the state of Kentucky, there's been plenty of cases. Like hospitals are now like overrun. Took a lot longer than expected, but they're finally full up to capacity. I was going to head down to another county and could be with family that haven't been seen for a while for Christmas dinner, but I'm thinking of canceling that now because I would probably be fine if I get it, but I'm around people who are at risk, so I think I will skip that. Vaccines are coming. It's very early stages. I think some have been given out. I think some have had bad effects, but I'm not sure. You'll be fine, but those you give it to will be fine. I'll be fine. The ones I'll give it to probably wouldn't be fine. That's what I meant to say, but I can't talk. And I think that's it. How's COVID where you guys are at? Is everything just fucked? Everything's probably just fucked. Balkans are fucked. Well, Balkans have always been fucked. If Chinese girl already had it, it'll be fine. Please stop shopping online. I don't know if I agree with that. My telling the one case this whole year. That's pretty good. Asians wear masks. It's like a Japanese. I know. Maybe it's true in like China as well, or in Korea. Actually, yeah. Those three countries, I think it's like more of a fashion statement. Like I remember, like I'll play a Yakuza game, and I'm running around doing Yakuza things, and there'll be people with masks on, and it makes me think of coronavirus. But these games take place, and were made years ago. It's just a fashion thing over there.
I think it's more than that because they had SARS-CoV-1 that we didn't have. I don't know if you remember
True.
that.
That is true. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's when that whole thing started. The whole Asians wear masks stereotype. I think at least in like Japan, I think that's where it started with SARS.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, they are very urban. I know China has shit polluted cities. I imagine some in Japan probably are. Probably some in Korea, because they're all China, not so much. Well, along the coast, yeah, but South Korea and Japan are very densely populated. If you got a cold, wear a mask. Whenever throughout my life, whenever I would get a cold, I would make sure to just spread it everywhere as possible. I was a giga super spreader. It was fun times. Is there anything else in real life I should talk about? Oh, the Texas suing for election stuff that was dead on arrival. Supreme Court said, "Fuck off" today, so that's done. I don't think anything else happened. I don't think anything else has happened. Yeah, on with it. Yeah, I think it's time we unmute Queen B here, or Queen A, I guess, and get on with it. All right, someone unmute Adrienne.
Hello.
Hey, Adrienne, what's up?
Nothing too much. How are you guys?
Doing pretty well. Is it warm where you're at?
No, it's not. I don't know if I mentioned, but some of you guys know I'm from Florida, but I moved to Oregon recently.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's probably pretty cold there.
Yeah, it's pretty decently cold.
So, have you ever watched The Sopranos?
No, I haven't.
Okay, there's a character on the show named Adriana, and people in the show refer to her as Aid or Adri. So this whole week, when I've been thinking about like what I'm going to talk to you about, I would always shorten your name to that Aid or Adrian. It just reminded me of it.
I have a lot of nicknames here, so it's fine to whatever, like Rianne, Adri, Niz, like tons of nicknames.
Gotcha. So no one here knows who you are. You're a complete mystery person. Introduce yourself.
Like just actually me, or like me in the game, or what?
However you want to do it, but especially in the game.
Talk to yourself. Okay. No. I'm within the game. I'm former leader of TKR, and I've already kind of done a little bit of an intro, on me in real life. But yeah, I mean not a whole lot of stuff to mention. I mean, retired, enjoying it.
Gotcha. So how'd you get into the game?
That's a really good question. I don't remember. I probably looked up something at some point trying to find a game to play and then just wound up here, but it was in 2015. And I was in DEIC initially, and wasn't really like the most active member. It was probably one that most alliance leaders would absolutely hate to have, because I never knew what was going on. Checked in regularly, but I wasn't really a part of the community. And then that was when I was doing my master's, and so I ended up leaving the game after that. And when I rejoined, I couldn't find DEIC because they had merged right after I left. So I ended up joining TKR, and that's when I really got into the community.
What'd you master in, if you don't mind getting a bit personal?
International development.
Oh, like infrastructure and stuff?
No, my focus was on environment, and my undergrad was in environmental science. So it mostly has to do with think like NGOs, like grassroots organizations, or like service organizations. A lot of those are involved in like international development, and so that's mostly what I did. It's science, social science, and environmental science. It's
Gotcha.
people and environment, essentially.
Gotcha. What does a career path with something like that look like?
Well, you think like things like the UN Development Program, or Nature Conservancy, or right now I work for the U.S. government, doing environmental science with them.
Gotcha. So you're literally a Fed.
You could say that, I guess.
Gotcha. So, we're in DIC, which was like a training alliance of sorts for Acadia. So when you returned to the game, was
No.
TKR your first choice?
DEIC wasn't a training alliance for Acadia.
I remember reading something back then that after they had merged, Acadia said that it had been some kind of success for like training new government members or something. That's what I'm basing that statement off of.
Before the merge, it was, you had DEIC and you had North American Confederacy, and then they merged and became Acadia. Whatever they did after that merge with DEIC, I don't really know because I wasn't here.
You're right. I was confusing DIC with that alliance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, old DIC. That was like I think it was like Nordenweinrein or Nordreich, and I think Non Grata from CN or something, that was supposed to be the people who made it up, and they were like the whales, and everybody feared them. But then once we started, basically kicking in their plumbing, they were kind of just seen as like, oh, they don't really do anything, and they're very reactive. It was part of that whole the Covenant thing, the old Covenant wars. But yeah, I remember them. They weren't too competent.
Sure.
So when you go on.
No, I didn't have anything else to say, really.
Gotcha. So when you came back to the game, was TKR your first choice? What did that journey look like?
It was, because I read through like the recruitment messages, and it was the one that stood out to me the most. And my fellow alliance members like to make fun of me for this, but I actually applied to TKR twice because I went inactive on the first application. And then I think I looked at joining another alliance, and I was like, nah, I want to join TKR. So I went back and I redid the application, and I got accepted. So.
And about what year was this? What time?
2017.
So you eventually became leader of TKR, and I believe you was leader for two years. It was for
Yeah.
a pretty good while. How did you end up becoming leader?
Well, when I joined TKR, it was after my master's while I was looking for a job, so I had a lot of free time. I got really involved in the community, and I just kind of like normal, just moved my way up from there. But through low gov milcom to high gov milcom, and then I became 2IC in March 2017 or 2018, and then became leader about a month later.
Gotcha. I believe you took over for lordship. Is that right?
No, I took over for the creepy lurker. He was in between lordship and myself.
Gotcha. Okay. Lordship and creepy lurker, are they still around?
They are, yeah.
Gotcha. So you became leader. What was the first big war you guys were involved with after you became leader?
I think you know the answer to that one.
Gotcha. It would have been early 2018. Was it Trail of Tears? Yeah, Trail of Tears.
That was 2017. Like the
Islamic
and
Crusade.
that was my first war as a member of TKR. But my first war as leader was the one against you guys, Thalmor.
Oh, 69-day war?
Uh-huh.
Gotcha. I thought if you became leader in April of 2018, wouldn't it have been Islamic? No, Islamic Crusade was earlier. Yeah, it was in like in more February or so.
And we weren't in Islamic Crusade. We did Salt instead. I was 2IC for that one though.
Gotcha. As you see, I should probably do more research on timelines before doing these kinds of things. All right, so you fought with a 69-day war. You did so. Well, get me back to Salt. What were the motivations involved with that war?
If I remember right, it was mostly we were bored and we were kind of tired of them. And it wasn't us. Like, I know that, like, we were the biggest clients involved. People kind of associate us most with it, but it was intended to be more, like Guardian and Grumpy's war, and TCW. And then we were backup.
Gotcha.
I don't remember. I mean, Julian might remember more, but I think it was mostly they had grievances against alliances in there, and then we were there as backup essentially, but.
So TKR has always been, or at least concerning the time you took over, had always been pretty large, pretty powerful. So I imagine there were plenty of things to juggle. So with all this going on, like, give me an example of what week to week was like at the head of TKR during Salt.
I mean, during Salt, I was 2IC still, but I mean, it's a fair bit to manage. During a war, there's usually about half our alliance at least recently about half our alliance at any given point is new players who are still learning the game. So you're balancing orders with the older players and then trying to teach the newer players, and then managing all the normal things that one has to manage with an alliance, balancing econ and IA and everything, and then having to deal with FA, which is always interesting. Never a dull moment. But it's a lot, but it's a fun circus to manage.
Gotcha. Can you share any like interesting or funny stories that without breaking OPSEC?
About like TKR or about leading? Like,
As you were leader. Obviously, you may break OPSEC, but like, I understand you probably can't.
I mean, not sure that I really very many funny stories necessarily, like about leading, but I have like some moments that I did really enjoy. Like when we were leading Nightfall, and in that war, I remember that it was kind of like a lot to manage, and we'd been dealing with like a lot of negative backlash on the forums, and so it was a lot to manage, and it took really quite a toll. And I remember when I told my membership what was going on with the talks there, and I shared the terms with them. Definitely my favorite part of that whole thing was just like the 3 pages on our forums of people just yelling back like white peace or no peace. Definitely made that war for me, and so not a funny story, but it's one of my favorite moments as leader.
Yeah, feeding off the energy of those below you, right?
Yeah, like they have a really good way, like of when you need them like the most, when you're struggling to do something like that without realizing what's going on, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I know a big reason. Well, I do this show because it's fun for me, and I know a big part of it is interacting with the audience, and it's always fun seeing them like create their own memes. Like, I say based, which is a nonsense word, but we have our own emoji for it now, and no one else would really use it, and I would use it during my show, and it became its own emoji. Then everyone else started using it, and it's just fun. I know comedians, they talk about something similar with how like they'll get up on stage, and when the crowd's enjoying it, they get energy from that, and when they're not, it's the opposite. It makes them want to stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting energy from people is very
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, Sherm just brought up one. It wasn't really relating to leadership, but we do every year we do a Super Bowl betting with fake currency and all of that. And every year I just kind of go on and I just pick names at random based on whatever one I like most, whatever I feel like, because I don't watch football. So I went on to that, and I picked like it ended up being like the most biggest upsets there, and everyone's like, well, you're gonna lose all of the money that you bet, and somehow I won all of them. I have no idea how, because I just picked based on like, oh, the Ravens, we have a member named Raven, let's do that. That was my method. was was picking based on things like that, and somehow I managed to get all 4. So it was utterly ridiculous, and everybody, I think Sherm said it was like a 0.2% chance or something ridiculous like that. So it was pretty fun. Yeah,
sounds like it.
I want the other team to win.
Funny. Are you like into sports at all?
A little bit into soccer, and I'm more into like college football than I am pro football. I don't really watch pro football.
Gotcha. I'm not big into sports myself. I like to watch University of Kentucky basketball, but that's about it for me.
Yeah.
So you were leaving for almost 2 years. What made you decide to resign?
Well, I stepped down a couple months after MPO's last time. And I just started making plans basically shortly after that. And working on passing off to who leads it now, which is Ben. and it was just after that war, I kind of just needed a break. I think a lot of people did, but like I had just moved back to in addition to like what was going on in the game, I had just moved back to the U.S. and I really needed to focus on real life for a while, finding a job, getting resettled back over here. So all of that together basically is why I stepped down.
Gotcha. So, what was TKR like internally during MPL's last time? Because I think all of our alliances really struggled with it. I think KT lost maybe 40 members. I think a few disbanded. Oh, Church of Spaceology disbanded. What was TKR like internally?
It's rough. I mean, just like you said, I mean, it was rough for anybody. I was, we went from, I think we were around 150 members to 90 or so by the end of it. So we lost a lot of people, and a lot of good people. Every alliance lost a lot of people that were pretty important members of their alliance. So it was sad in a lot of ways to see people go, especially that many. And it was rough, but I think I was never disappointed with how we did. I think we did a really good job for the most part of keeping up morale as best as we could, and we took a lot more of a outside of PNW approach to things that war, playing more games together like outside of PNW than we ever really had before. So that's probably like the biggest change because that still really continues today.
Gosh, I think Rose did something similar with focusing more on like community building. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I talked about Fist earlier and why he seems to hate TSTKR so much. Why do you think that is?
So I don't know how many people remember this or know this, but before Fist became leader of Pantheon again during the lead up to Nightfall and all of that, he had been in TKR. He was one of our low-gov MilCom members. So he was our low-gov MilCom, and this is when we were still allied to TCW, and probably doesn't really like TCW either, but that hasn't really come out on the forums because they have not really said anything that he's had to disagree with this particular war. But when we were allied to TCW, they were talking to Pantheon about merging into them. If you remember all that and that whole drama at all?
Did you ask me?
Yeah.
Not on top of my head.
So this was shortly after I became leader. It was like May 2018 or so. And so Pantheon was talking about merging into TCW at that point, and Fist was in our alliance, and he found out about this. So I wake up one morning, and Fist has left the alliance, and he's now somehow the leader of Pantheon. And I had a bunch of messages from Velky and my EMs that he's still on our Slack. Nobody knows what's going on. And so basically what had happened is over the night, he had essentially like cooed Pantheon to stop them from merging into TCW. So that was fun, but where his dislike of TKR mostly comes from the aftermath of that, because he felt we should have done because obviously TCW didn't really take it particularly well, and he and Fohi got into it a good bit, and I mostly stayed out of it because it was my low-gov member that was now involved in this, or my former low-gov member. And he felt that I should have done a lot more to mediate between New Pantheon and TCW. And then it kind of got worse from there throughout Nightfall and when Pantheon hit our prots as their entry into Nightfall, I did not hesitate to tell Fist exactly what I thought about that, and it just went downhill from there. As for TS, though, I have no idea what the issue is there, and I don't think Partisan does either, because he seems pretty confused based on the forums about what exactly happened to make Fist dislike Partisan.
Yeah, there comes a point where if you're taking up this attitude and you're arguing just any way you can, it stops being, you're clearly doing it in good faith, you're just doing it to lash out. And that's why I've been wondering, well, why does he hate these people so much that he's taking this position, doing this?
But yeah, it's just kind of weird because he hasn't posted or really done anything in 2 years, so it was a little out of the blue.
Yeah. So why don't you go through the top 15 alliances and give your opinions on them? You down for that?
Top 15 currently.
Zig, if you're there, can you go ahead and get an image of the top 15 so it can be posted in chat?
I mean, I don't normally really like to do most of these. I'm kind of out of the game a little bit, but I could talk a little bit about them, I guess.
Sure, just any off the cuff thoughts.
Rose is a lot of fun to hang out with for community events. I remember they did a lot of really cool stuff for Halloween. The Immortals, I'm gonna keep it mostly community. Why, if that's cool. The Immortals, I don't really know much about the community anymore, but definitely think Tyrion's a pretty cool guy. We talk semi-regularly. Commonwealth, I don't really know much about them anymore. TFP, I've always liked them.
I want to stop you. Can you give just a little statement about me? You said stick to the community. I want to ask you, can you give a little statement about their politics at some point, just to provide a bit more information?
I think most of my thoughts on the politics have made their ways pretty well to the forums. If you want me to get into it, I can a bit. But
you don't have to give the full thing. It can just be an abridged version.
I'm really not sure, to be honest. I mean, most of it, they're fighting most of that top 15. So.
Oh, that is true, yeah.
So, bit of a mixed bag.
Okay, well, you can keep talking about the community of each alliance, starting from wherever you were, number 4.
Yeah. Do I have to go through all of them, or could I just hit on some of the ones that I want to talk about a little bit more?
Sure, go with the ones you have more to say about.
Well, especially since Zig's here, would love to talk about Grumpy and how fun they've been to talk to throughout this war. Spend a lot of time over it in their server, and spend a lot of time with them at war, to be honest. And so it's been fun just hanging out over there, and and chatting with people like Hillbilly and Zig, and bantering back and forth and whatnot. And they've been pretty good like sports about it, even though like some of them are still pretty high in front. I'm just there to sit there and nuke them and whatnot. So some of the exchanges that I've had on there with them have been some of the highlights of this war for me. It's been a lot of fun chatting on that channel in particular.
Likewise.
So that's probably like where's my list? The biggest thing I have to say about the top 15. Yeah, and politics, I'd really rather not get into thoughts on some of them politically, if that's all right with you.
How come?
I'm not really.
Because
a lot of my feelings about them are not super positive at the moment.
Well, Adrienne, you're a very big name in the game. You were leader of one of the most powerful, influential alliances this game has ever had, and you were in that position for a long time. I think because of your experience, because of your I mean, you're not in Gov right now, maybe, but you certainly have a lot of pull there. I think you would have some unique insights that would be informative. So if you would give into politics some, this is not a very nice show. A lot of bullshit gets thrown around. It won't be out of place for you to be a little harsh.
Well, it is out of place for me a bit because that's just not really the approach I tend to go for. I've definitely, made my fair share of comments on the forums. I think I've made my thoughts on certain actions, such if you want a little bit of political, such as some of the actions taken this war by Rose. I've made that pretty well known on the forums, I think, and I mean, I've everything that I've wanted to say, I've pretty much said and made known on there.
Not everyone reads the forums. The show here is a completely different medium. Can you give an abridged version of what you've said?
Can you read your forum threads to us? Because I can't read.
We'll just record that like where you guys recorded Cooper's. No, I mean, I think I've made like I'm not a fan of yeah. Not a fan of some of what's gone on this war with the treaties, the hidden treaties and Rose joining in and a few other things. And like I said, I've not really been hiding that very much. But
do you have, and if you can't reveal, that's fine. Where are peace talks right now? Are we close to the war ending? Is it still going to be a ways off?
I don't know really much of anything about how peace talks are going. I am blissfully not involved in those.
All right, gotcha. So I want going back in history a little bit. Over your time leading TKR. Now you resigned after MPO's last time for a number of reasons. Were there any other time during your leadership that you wanted to quit beforehand? Was there any other incidents or anything that made you go, gee, maybe I should just, this is too much?
I mean, well, there's been a couple of times that things have been rough throughout my leadership, and I'm not going to say that it hasn't crossed my mind, but it was never really the right time, and so I never seriously considered it because, I had goals I wanted to accomplish. I had things I wanted to do, and they wanted to see TKR in a really solid place before I ever considered stepping down. Which is why I spent months after MPO the last time still helping, through the rebuild before I was willing to let it go. So not seriously, in other words, but there were definitely moments that were pretty rough as leader that it did cross my mind. It just was never really seriously considered.
What were some goals and ambitions you had for TKR?
Well, I think for me, one of the things that I really wanted for TKR was I wanted us to have a stable gov, especially in FA. We didn't really have that when I took over. Shortly before I took over, we lost our entire FA department, so we had nobody really in FA at all. And that took a long time to rebuild because FA is not really the easiest department to get new people in, because of how long it takes to build connections. And then probably just, I mean, we've been through quite the journey over the last couple of years. And when I took over, we were in a really rough spot as well, not just with the FA department, but community-wise as well, a bit. And so, I mean, that was probably the biggest goal of mine, was to make sure that I was leaving us with better relations between Gov and membership that there were than when I took over, and with a stable Gov. And I was really happy with how things were when I stepped down and where it's gone since.
Gotcha. When you was leader of TKR, did you have did you have any mistakes that you wish could have played out differently?
Oh, I made lots of mistakes. I mean, I'm sure anybody does. I didn't have a whole ton of experience before I took over. So I mean, where do I begin with that, really? Probably some of the biggest mistakes I made came from not paying enough attention to just letting AC rejoin the Gov. That would be one of, but not paying enough attention to FA and not knowing enough about the history and context of things when I first started out as leader. Trusting people who can't actually be trusted, that was a good one.
Do you have any examples of that in particular?
Yes, I do. I think the biggest one was pretty well known and put up on the forums during MPO's last time. But Polaris was somebody that we had gotten to know really well while I was a new leader and second in command. And so, Phoenix is somebody that I had a lot of trust in when I started out. And then during MPO the last time, it became pretty obvious that she had taken a lot of what I had said to her out of context and was giving it to Rogue. And that led to a CB being given to her, from her to Rogue, which had nothing to do with what our actual conversation was. But MPO used that to declare on TKR during Nightfall, or during MPO's last time.
Gotcha. So throughout MPO's last time, can you share what some of your reactions were to how things transpired from that war? From MPO doing their bullshit to the realization that, oh, they're actually trying to get us to quit, to, oh, Alex just banned all of them.
It was definitely a hell of a roller coaster, wasn't it? I mean,
It was very interesting, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess at the beginning, it was just interesting because we went from fighting Ketog to turning around and declaring on BK with them. And that was a pretty interesting experience because I've never really done something like that before. But I was kind of grateful to them that they were really willing to do that. But because we were the ones named, and you know, like obviously they felt a threat too because it was listed that, you know, MPO was trying to go for them. But we definitely, I was like definitely kind of stressful because we had to turn around things, do the ceasefire, and try to rebuild. And our side was on the losing side, so we didn't have a lot of military. We didn't have any spies. We only had a couple of days to do this, and we were just feeling kind of unprepared when things went in. But if we waited a day or two longer, then we would have gotten declared on, because at that point they had realized what was going on. So we just went for it, and I remember being completely, like, pleasantly surprised at how well it actually went initially. And then after that, you know, like everybody started coming in kind of piecemeal. Like we had Citadel come in one day, and then later somebody else came in, and that kind of made it easier to manage. And so somehow we were winning, and that was a complete and total, like, pleasant surprise, to be honest. And then MPO came in. Well, and then TS hit Guardian and Grumpy first, and then MPO came in. And that was, remember, everybody was really, really pissed off when Guardian and Grumpy got hit for good reason, because we we thought that it meant that that all of them were going to come in, and you know, obviously they did eventually, with the declaration on us just a couple of days after that. So definitely that part of the war was pretty chaotic, maddening, and then after that it just kind of went downhill from there, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe I was inactive from July to December. I almost quit for good.
Yeah. And then throughout, like, peace talks quotation marks, it was all pretty, nobody was all that pleased during that time, for good reason, you know, with everything that was going on with the trolling and the talks, and the pages and pages of terms, and the separate talks, and just all of the hoops we were made to jump through was ridiculous. And
Well,
then
you know, Aid, you know, to be fair, they just don't want to have to deal with you 10 years from now.
And then when the whole scandal thing broke and they just left, we were all completely shocked. Like, nobody knew what to do at that point, really, because it was so sudden. It was such, you know, a crazy ending to a war. Like, we've been fighting for months, and then just in like the blink of an eye, it's over, essentially.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty. Well, it was funny to me because I'm a psychopath, and seeing the MPO people like bitch and moan real loud in goons. That was funny to me, but yeah, it was pretty dramatic.
Yeah, and it's just, it was something that I don't think any of us really saw coming, because with what Alex had ended up taking away from them in that war, they could have kept going, and so we kind of expected that was what was going to happen, that they were going to keep going. So when they packed up and left, it was pretty shocking.
So, how did you react? Oh, when did it become clear to you guys that they wanted us gone from the game?
I mean, I guess probably around November, December. If I had to right, like just with the once a month, we'll only talk to you once a month, and then I remember we posted up those joint surrenders because like they weren't going to let us do talks if we didn't, surrender. So we kind of took the dramatic path and posted it on there because they were doing everything they could to tank talks in the group chats that we were in. So we made the decision basically to post on the forums because then they couldn't ignore it. And we posted separately because that's what they wanted, and then they used that as a reason to keep our talks separate. Yeah. And then it became incredibly apparent when we got into talks and they wouldn't show us all the terms. Like they had this they were going to show one term at a time, and you couldn't move on to the next term until you accepted the first one. It like that. If there was a single moment that made it pretty obvious, that was it.
How long, was you active in fighting throughout the whole war? Did you take breaks? What was your personal status with the war?
I took, only real longer break that I took was when I went on vacation because I passed off peace talks to somebody else, and I stuck around in beige during that time, I think. But other than that, I didn't really do much of a break just because, I mean, I don't really feel like I can tell members to fight if I'm not doing it. So, we encourage members to take breaks and come back, but I fought, I think, throughout the whole time, other than maybe, taking semi-extended breaks in beige every now and again.
So let's say Alex never acted on any of the cheating. How long do you think you could have kept this up for?
I have no idea. I mean, that's kind of it's hard to really say that just because, I mean, it did happen. It's not really I don't know what would have happened after that if if that hadn't happened. Will we still be fighting today? But I mean, as for how long we would have lasted, I mean that's a really hard question to answer.
Well, it's literally an apocalypse scenario.
Yeah, but I don't know, because I mean, for a lot of us, it's this is the only game that we have as a community. So whereas MPO or something has other ones, so it kind of makes sense that we would be fighting hard for that, because where else are we gonna go? This is the only game for majority of us. If we don't last here, then our community's gone.
Did your leadership have like a crowning moment? And if so, what was it? Like what's the one thing you did or the one moment that you think really made your leadership? Or that you were most proud of?
In all honesty, what I'm most proud of was happened as I was after I retired, not while I was leader. But it has to do with when I was leader, and really what I'm most proud of is how seamlessly things translate moved when I stepped down and gave the reins over to Ben. How smooth that transition was, and how well TKR has been, doing under him. Like that to me, knowing that I managed to reach goals and make TKR an alliance that was able to handle a transition like that so well. That's the moment that I'm most proud of.
Gotcha, that makes sense. So when bringing you on, what I was most interested in was knowing, like, over your 2 years of leadership, what was really like. That's a long period of time, especially in a place like TKR where there's a lot going on. Do you have any stories, insights? Like, can you provide an insider look of what it was like? Like, imagine if a U.S. president writes a book on what it was like to be president and the crises and everything. Can you give like a story or a summary of all of that?
Mm,
That's a very open question, but
yes.
what sets TKR apart from other alliances?
Definitely, like, in yeah, Slack. No, I mean, for me, what, like, not really having been in very many other alliances, there's kind of like a limit to how much I can really say with this. But the one thing that I've always loved the most about TKR is just like how much we have each other's backs, really. Like I know that if I were ever struggling IRL, like that I wouldn't even have to, like like they would help me. Like, not that I am really the type of person that's really great at asking for help, but just knowing that they would be there um means like the world. Like the camaraderie of TKR is astounding, and it's awesome. It's the again, without having been in many other alliances, I can't imagine being anywhere else.
Yeah, gotcha. I can understand that. Yeah, I've been in KT since, well, let's see, I created the alliance in 2017, so we're coming up on 4 years now. And through the years, I'm sure you can understand, the door rotates, people come, people go, but yeah, you really get attached to the people, and I couldn't imagine being in any other alliance.
Yeah.
So that's kind of about it for me. Are you open to taking listener questions?
Sure.
All right, so audience members, if you got something for Aid, go ahead and ask it.
You need to stop posting, Phoenix. No, like you're like what's going to end the war isn't going to be your post. Like, I appreciate that you're wanting to learn more, trying to figure that out, but your goal of it's not going to help. It doesn't help. Um it's just it'll be decided behind closed doors, and your posting isn't going to make a difference. I'm sorry. Like I
So where was this when I was asking about alliances 20 minutes ago? Oh, all
He's-
my opinions are on the
he's a-
forums.
and that's all been all over the forums too.
True.
I've got a question.
Yes.
If you decide to leave TKR, where would you go? Just anywhere you want. You just have to leave TKR. Where would you go?
Well, I think you're asking this because you know.
I don't know.
You go to the Lost Empire. That's so cool, Aid.
I'm guessing Chalky Castle or the Syndicate.
Well, I probably wouldn't I wouldn't ever really leave TKR, but if I had to pick another alliance just based on where I like spending a lot of my time outside of TKR, it would probably be Grumpy. Sorry, Malachi.
You would be extremely bored, and it would be great.
Yeah, I would probably like being in a much smaller alliance would be I think interesting, but I would probably find myself being a lot more productive in real life.
Yeah. That's why I'm there.
Yeah, like TKR, I love TKR to bits, but it just makes it like it is very easy to spend hours that you did not intend to spend on Slack talking to everybody, or playing like Among Us for like 6 hours, and you're just like, what the? Is this all I did with my day? Yeah, Jackbox. So like, I think that would be. I think you have a fair point in saying that I might be kind of bored, but
It's not always a bad thing.
yeah.
Wait, do you actually speak Spanish?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Prove it.
Prove it. Malachi, you've sat there and you've watched me argue with Lordship.
Oh yeah, that's true. I can talk to her. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Like I just usually when people tell me to say something in Spanish, I just say "No me toques mis cacahuates," which means "Don't touch my peanuts."
You haven't proved it yet.
It's not borracho, it's borracho.
Yeah,
That
he
means you're a
always makes that
drunkard.
mistake. It's oh, not you.
Yang.
Why is that all you know, Yang? Out of like all things to know in Spanish.
Yang, learn $20 son $20. That's $20 or $20, so you can combine that with your phrase.
So I got into Malachi's telling me to tell this story. I got into this like argument. I was mostly doing it just because it was fun, but I got into like a 2-hour long argument with Lordship in our Slack channel about what's the word for tamale cooker in Spanish, and so like I said, it was about like it went on for a while, and for me that's a tamalera, and for Lordship it was a caldero, and we argued about that for.
And
so
for me,
long.
it would be abuela.
But
For you guys who don't know, around Christmas, around this time, grandmothers make a lot of tamales.
Yeah.
Like, I guess this one would apply to you. What do you call it? Do you have yours with banana leaves or corn husk?
well, I've done both. They're pretty different. They kind of taste different based on what you But
I prefer the corn ones, but sometimes the banana leaf ones are okay.
Yeah, like I mean, we've had them. We make them more in like the corn husks just because those are more common. But I mean, they're both good.
Have you ever had Chilean rice ones?
No.
No.
How are those?
Oh, they're good. They're just strangely they're mushier than even the banana leaf ones. So that's kind of like the interesting thing on that one.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The banana leaf ones do get pretty mushy.
Oh, if they're done badly, they're really bad. And if the corn ones are done badly, they're beyond dry. They're like, I can't breathe. They're like, airball.
But then they'll sometimes, people will put like, I don't know what they put into it. Sometimes with the tamales, mostly like the corn ones, where they're like you said, kind of like dry and really cakey, and it's like not good. That's not my kind that I like, at least.
I forgot what it's called, but I know what you're talking about. It's like a powder thing that they add to the dough.
Yeah. Not a fan of it.
It's cornmeal. That's right. They add cornmeal to make it sandier.
Huh.
Yeah.
Tamales are amazing, Phoenix. You're missing out.
Remember,
Tamalera. At the end, not O.
Remember Hot Pockets or the Americanized version? I'm trying to push that.
Never really thought of it that way.
All right.
Oh,
Dead
tacos
Space.
or buche.
So I'll ask one of the next questions. What advice would you give to new leaders in Orbis? This was asked a while ago.
I think the biggest advice I can give is to, really work on and pay attention to what's going on, like FA wise, especially because it's very easy to like my focus at the beginning of the year was very much internal, which was important because we had a lot to work on internally, but I didn't really pay much attention to what was going on. I didn't know a lot of the history of why people did or didn't like that, and it might not be as relevant to like a new alliance that's just starting out, but versus like in my case where we had 3 years of history already, and I didn't know why certain people didn't like us, or thought that like I didn't have a full understanding of how things really worked on Orbis. So no, I'm not Cooper. So that would be my biggest advice, is really pay attention to what's going on, and don't neglect that side of the game. Obviously focus heavily on your internals, but don't neglect FA, essentially.
All right. Adrienne, I want you, because I saw it with Phoenix, I know you're capable. I want you to give just one political hot take about something present, past, something. Preferably something present.
I gave you ones about Pantheon and Polaris.
Something with that same energy you gave to Phoenix just a minute ago. What's something you feel passionate about right now? What happened with Kaiser?
Okay, so Kaiser was our 2IC while I was Milcom head. And he was 2IC right before I took over for him. And so, and I like to, okay, before I get ahead of myself, basically Kaiser got, if you remembered, removed as 2IC of TKR and ended up deciding to leave after that and joined Syndicate. And the reason that like all of that happened basically was because he wasn't really like listening to high gov opinions, didn't really like consult high gov before he did things. And our leader at the time was the creepy lurker who had just had a kid, so he was leaving most things in charge of Kaiser, for Kaiser, to run, and just checking in, because he's got a newborn. And so when Kaiser did things like dropped our prop without talking to anybody and those sorts of things, TCL made the decision to remove him as 2IC. And then he left, and those posts got leaked onto the forums. So they're still like visible and whatnot. But Kaiser is often considered in TKR to be one of the one of the main contributors to the issues that we were having internally at the time, the mistrust between Gov and membership and all of that. And so all of that was going on at the time. And then right after that, he ended up joining Syndicate, and they made him their FA leader, like partisan position now. So I don't really know where I'm going about this, so we wanted to talk about it, but I still occasionally give partisan crap for that because he was the one that promoted it, and he's like, well, I didn't know. Like, well, you had a whole alliance here as an example to look on that, because the whole thing got leaked on the forums, and they were should have been pretty well aware of what happened at the time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, does anybody else have any final audience questions? I'm getting about ready to wrap this thing up for tonight. Adrienne, do you? Oh, sorry. Say again.
Julian pinged a question.
Who's your least IC dwarf? Who's your least favorite IC dwarf in Politics and War?
What?
Who's your least favorite dwarf in Politics and War?
What do you mean dwarf?
I'm just reading the chat. It was from Tyrion. Come on.
Oh. Okay, that makes sense now.
What state is your tree in? I don't know what that question is.
Okay, so that has to do with my Christmas tree, which my kitten has completely devoid of all ornaments, which are all over my living room, mostly hidden behind this one box. But I can't get this kitten to leave the damn tree alone. It's so basically all the ornaments are gone, but I've still got the little flower sitting at the top in place of as my angel. But there are no ornaments on my tree anymore because they're all over the floor.
Yeah, they'll do that. I got 2 indoor cats, and they make a mess of whatever they want.
Yeah. The older one could not really care less, but the kitten thinks they're toys.
Cooper asks, can we get an answer on how she feels about being the last king of TKR?
I think Cooper doesn't value his life very much.
Yeah, the pause really sold that. All right. Well, Zig, Shifty, do you have anything to add? Because I'm pretty much done here.
Nothing worth anything.
Julian asked, "I'd like to know why the Commonwealth was dropped."
I guess my question is I usually ask most leaders this. I think I asked what's his name? Grumpy guy. SRD this. How much of a public menace was I in TKR? And how far on the banned list, do not let him in list was I?
Well, you weren't really somebody that we really talked about a ton. So I mean, we probably wouldn't let you in TKR, but I don't know that we really were like, oh man, that's 50, every 5 minutes or nothing like that.
Okay.
I actually do have one more question, if you're done. So, I gotta ask, partially because of the the title of this show, because you're a girl, do you get a lot of simps that are just like DMing you creepy stuff? I hate to ask, but
I don't actually. But I have heard of people, other girls in the game having to deal with that. And the only reason I can really kind of think that I had a few here or there, but nothing really all that bad. And the only real reason that I could think of that I didn't really get it is because I was kind of like isolated in Slack until I was high gov, essentially. Like I didn't really do a lot of venturing out. And then when I did, it was mostly like, for coalition stuff and whatnot, because I was Melcom head. And really, by the time that I became more active on Discord, I was leader, and I don't think that people usually want to be creepy to alliance leaders all that much. So,
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I think your status plays into it. I don't think because you were so high up, I think that dissuaded people.
Yeah,
I mean, I creep on Thalmor.
Well, that's different.
Yeah. So I think I do remember. It was a little bit weird the first time I did a radio show with Kevin Charlie, at the beginning of their show. It was shortly before Nightfall, and I don't think that people really knew me super well yet, and so a lot of people were like surprised once I started talking on that radio show to find out that I was a real girl, and it got pretty creepy real quick. In the middle of their radio show. So that was interesting because that was like just like an instant flood of like, oh my god, she's actually a girl, or like weird comments like that. I mean, like I called myself Adrienne. I think it's pretty self-evident.
You'd be surprised how many people pretend to be girls who aren't.
Like Yang.
There's also this one girl in KT who had a weird name. You Vox something, and she pretended to be a girl, but she wasn't.
Yeah, that's the thing too, though. I think the other thing I would like to add, I guess, is I don't think Adrienne gives off that vibe in general of liking the attention. I think the thing with Adrienne is it's more like pretty much the only thing you ever get as sort of a vibe from Adrienne is I just want to play the game. Don't go there. You're just gonna creep me out and piss off a lot of people. So, there's two ways to react to it. She just reacts to it with like, I'm gonna head out, folks. Versus, oh my god, shower me with more. Oh, you shouldn't have. So yeah, I think she wins the good girl award.
Adrienne, are you pretending to be a girl?
I don't know. Am I?
That's why I'm asking you. All right. Final question is from Julian was, why was the Commonwealth dropped?
So after Nightfall, I mean, I did explain it to Sphinx and Yui at the time. But after nightfall, I was
Who's typing? Someone stop typing.
sorry,
Oh, okay.
and then I screwed up. Yeah, yeah. That spelling, that spelling is my spelling is the female spelling. But yeah, it's both. But yeah. Where were we?
Why was the
Right.
Commonwealth dropped?
Okay, so I mean after nightfall, we were doing a lot of talking internally, and I mean the main reason was mostly because we thought that we were just going to be headed for a repeat of that same war, because everybody was going really hard at the time with the upper tier hegemony. I mean, it sounds kind of like what's going on now, but upper tier hegemony argument. And so my thought process at the time was that if we stayed together, we were just going to have the same issue over and again, because that narrative had been going on for the better part of a year at that point. And so I thought that if we split up, that it would be better in a way for all of us, because we wouldn't be the target of, well, they have an upper tier hegemony, they need to be hit, this can't exist, all of that. Whether that was right or wrong, like, you can sit there and debate, and that's fair, but that was one of the leading reasons for splitting with everybody at that time. Yeah, well, I didn't expect you to do that either.
All right. Well, I think that's about it from me. That seems to be it for most of the audience. I think I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. Adrienne, thank you so much for coming on. You were a good guest.
Thank you. You have a good night.
You think you might come on again sometime in the future?
Yeah, if you ask me, well, I don't mind.
Okay, well, that's it. Adrienne, you have a good night. Zig, can you play out the theme and end the show?